Hello, everybody. I'm going to be talking about some of my books, things I've been writing on. We'll start with what everyone's near the bottom. We have Akuma. Akuma is a story about a young girl who loses her older brother when she is about 9 years old, I believe. Her older brother being named Conran. She is willing to accept his death at first until his funeral, only about a week later, I believe. When she is starting to feel the long-term effects of her brother dying, and she's in the denial stage of this death when she believes she sees her brother within the crowd of people at his own funeral. So, over time, after that, we get a time skip to present day. To present day as when I was writing it. And she is, for the rest of the book, trying to find her older brother, and she will eventually discover why he is yet to return. This is Vampire, a story on a vampire, obviously, who is different from the rest of vampires. They lean more towards bat in style, with having fur, like dark fur across their skin, and having actual bat ears and wings, unlike most vampires, which follow the typical Twilight style look of relatively attractive individual. It is partly a metaphor for people who do not fit into the gender norms, since they are a non-binary character. And I can't wait to experiment with them, since they are a pacifist in a world where they can't really afford to be one. This story I don't really plan on going into as much. It would have been a bit of a typical romance thing, but with a bit of a twist, the main character being an individual who is very fascinated by the dead. He ends up murdering somebody just for the pursuit of art, just so he can perfectly draw them in their dead state. This is my main book I've been working on. My friend was helping me with it. That's sort of chapter 1. I put into a big thing so it's easier to be moved onto Wattpad, where I can then add in paragraphs. So chapter 3 is a lot more paragraphed since it's easier to read then. I'm currently 4 chapters in, and I intend on continuing it. It's fantasy based, with most of the characters being queer. Why is there no space there? Yeah. Atsuro is a gay man. Lillian, I believe, is a lesbian woman. Miyori is also a lesbian, but she is asexual. Aria is I'm considering making her of a race, She is. Look, they are non-binary though. And then Alessio is. I believe I'm planning on making him bisexual. I'm not too sure on what to make him exactly, but I'm currently leaning mostly towards bisexual. The main plot of the book is two teenagers at first find that there is dark matter back in the world. Dark matter being this evil form of magic which slowly deteriorates the user's mind. So obviously that's the main threat, and they want to stop this, and slowly they come across their other members of the group, while still giving the villain a sense of humanness with the ending. This one is called The Jest. It is partly about corruption. There's two different versions. Well, not two different versions. Well, yeah, technically. There's two different forms of corruption. There is the corruption of the public and the corruption of power. Since a lot of the time people will kneel down to power metaphorically when presented with it, since they don't want to be injured or they believe they can gain something from it. That will be following that kind of route, with one of the main characters falling to this sort of thing. So I think that'll be fun to explore. This one is Quinn and Kylie. The main character is a transgender male, and he is a twin with his sister Kylie. They live with their two aunts and their uncle. I'm using this one to explore identity struggles, and I want to be able to have kind of a comfort sort of show, not show, you know what I mean, book, where I took a lot of inspiration from Gravity Falls, since this one is a bit different, however, since the creatures are a lot more of a threat to the main characters than in Gravity Falls, since within the first couple chapters they are attacked by an unknown entity, which they aren't too sure what it was, but they managed to survive. Next book we have up is Misaki. Misaki is a book about power struggle and the sense of inferiority. I'm going to be displaying the power struggle through genuine superpowers, since it's in a world where powers aren't uncommon, but they aren't particularly normalized. Misaki is the younger sibling of a more powerful individual known as Aki. Aki having the ability to rearrange atoms and basically any power you could like, but they can't be asked to ever use this power for the good of other people. Misaki isn't particularly a better person than Aki in the sense of morality, though they do tend to feel a lot more empathy towards people, even though it's less obvious due to the fact they put up a lot of walls to avoid being hurt. I'm having Misaki mildly autism coded due to sensory issues and giving her mild anger issues. They struggle to understand other people at times, but I do want to explore them as a character since I quite enjoy them. Their family isn't the best. Their mother completely losing her mind to her own powers and seemingly developing some form of schizophrenia where she's convinced that shadow creatures live within their home and outside and are out to get her. These shadow creatures actually do come back in one of my other books, which are kind of a reoccurring theme, but for different reasons. The shadow creatures in here are, in fact, fictional, while the shadow creatures within my fantasy-based book are not entirely fictional. These mostly being a physical manifestation of her own guilt, I suppose. Their father isn't the best individual, but he isn't a horrible person. He's human, but he doesn't really know how to care about others. He hasn't got the emotional intellect to look after his kids properly. But I do want to explore the power dynamic between an older sibling and a younger sibling, and how feeling inferior can lead to emotional barriers. This one is my dystopian based book. It's a lot more silly, but it does explore slight themes of governmental corruption, having characters known as the enforcers, I believe, who mildly, might say mildly, they more or less do parallel ICE within America at the moment. But those guys should be, they're less important to me than some of my other books, but I do enjoy writing it time to time. Here we have my story Novoy Meijing. Thinking of a different title potentially, since I don't really enjoy naming titles after my main character as often as I end up doing. But this one will explore how chasing after vengeance without caring for the people who help you can lead to a downward spiral. The main character is going to get worse and worse and worse as time goes on, and will break important bonds within their lives until near the end, when they realise exactly what they have done, and they will begin to try and fix things, even though some things cannot be repaired, yet alone fully. It'll also have slight dabbling into the exploitation of actors and lower class citizens, since there will be the physical manifestation of sins, since this is based in a world where there are demons, angels, and humans all living amongst each other. Sins still more or less exist, but they aren't immediately like sinners within other shows. But they tend to have when demons exist, they tend to be more prone to issues. Just say a wrath demon is more prone to have anger issues. A sloth demon is more likely to develop depression, meaning they end up feeling emotionally drained and unable to do things within their lives. Main character is a wrath demon, which explains why they occasionally lash out at people and they struggle to accept what's been done to them. Well, on the side of this, I will have obviously the corruption of systems with the manifestation of the lust demons, since each sin and such has a leader. We've got the different things to show off how demons and angels are different from their own kinds. But yeah, we'll have a female lead who is introduced within part 3. However, she won't be fully developed until a bit later on, since I want her to have her roles slowly chipped away at. Then the final thing that I have in my notes is the Divine, which is based around godlike entities who are facing threats bigger than themselves. These ones are less so a social commentary and more so just to enjoy. Then after that we can move on to characters who, however, are not in my notes, but I will save that for a different video if you're interested.